So are we actually going to do this? Yeah, we are. Let's go. You know me, I don't love the word consistent. That is not a favorite word of mine to use in most areas of my business except for one, and that is in consistent sales and cash coming into my business. I definitely want that. And if you are like me and you are working towards bringing in consistent sales in your business or scaling your sales, but you feel like you're spinning your wheels right now, you know you have been following all the experts, you've been doing all the work, you've been showing up, you've been posting on social media, you have a great offer that you know can be impactful for your audience and for your people, but there's just something missing. It's time to complete your sales funnel puzzle. Save your spot for this special workshop that we're going to be hosting on February 26th. This is a first workshop like this that we're going to be hosting, and you don't want to miss it because we're going to help you pinpoint exactly what's blocking your sales and give you a step-by-step plan to fix it fast. If you're ready to dive in and take action to creating more cash flow and more sales in your business in the next quarter, you don't want to miss this workshop. Click the link below or go to lanijackson.com/momentum to get more information and save your spot. And let's get started on today's episode. So, how do you actually form an aligned marketing plan? And how do you choose what to do when there's so many things that you can do for marketing? That is going to be the topic of this conversation. Welcome back to another podcast episode of Actually the Podcast. And I'm having Cait back on because she and I are very different when it comes to marketing. And I thought it would be a really great conversation for us to just show kind of this contrast of people who are both in the online space, both serving, but showing up very differently. And how do we figure out what way to show up, what's right for us, what's going to work for you? And we're just going to have this great conversation. So come on in and join us. I feel like we all need a cup of coffee here. And let's talk about talking about our business. Really, that's what it is. When you say marketing, all I can think about is if you want to have a business, you got to talk about your business. And marketing is truly at its core, just how are you talking about your business every single week and getting the word out there? So let's dive in. Cait, I'm
Yeah,
glad you're ready to talk about this.
yeah, I'm so ready. Actually, this is pretty much my favorite subject is you can do your business however you want. Like it doesn't have to be one way. And I know this is something you say all the time, right?
Yeah, I think business is like there's no one right way to build your business, and anyone who says that there is only one way is just trying to sell you their program.
Yep, yep. There's
There
so many.
are very many ways to build a business, and I, as through coaching journey and working with so many different women in different industries, there is not one way that works. It's any of the ways can work for you. It's just you have to choose what's right for you. And the first thing I think we need to just call out is that you don't have to do them all.
You don't, you cannot, should not do them all.
Yeah, right? Exactly. It's tempting though. It's very, very tempting to do them all because you feel like, oh, well, this one's not working. I should do this. Oh, I should add this. And it would be just like there's a lot. There's a lot of things you can do. So let's just talk about like what are we talking about when it says marketing and all the things that we could do. So let's name some of the things that you could do in your business when it comes to marketing.
So you could have a YouTube channel and that's your main focus. You could be on Instagram or have a podcast, have a Facebook group. You can market only in the DMs where you're not talking to people. You can have a really bomb sales page that does all your converting for you. What else, Lonnie?
You could do networking in person and virtually. You can also do referral only, which is a client of mine is doing for basically referral only marketing right now. SEO. SEO was be a huge part of marketing strategy. Sales calls versus applications versus Loom videos back, webinars, live webinars, recorded webinars, digital products versus in-person products and in-person services. There's so many ways that you can talk about business and do marketing. It's a lot. Oh, an
Yeah.
email list too. We can't forget the email list.
Oh, that's actually my favorite. I don't know how I missed that
Okay.
one.
So let's talk about like when we have, as we have grown our businesses, what has been an experience of like this marketing strategy really, really worked for me, and this one really, really didn't work for me, or I didn't feel aligned, and so maybe that's why it didn't work for me. So can you give me an example of what really didn't work for you?
Yeah, totally. So something that doesn't work for me is anything where I have to consistently communicate with others. So DM marketing is hard for me personally. Um, Anything where I have to post every week or be live every single week. I don't have the consistency in me. And at first I thought that was like a flaw. But then I started diving into things like my human design, which is a personality kind of test. If you guys don't know about human design, you should check it out. It's been powerful for me in designing a business that works for me. And according to my human design, I am going to be high energy sometimes and low energy sometimes. And it also tells me that I prefer spaces where I have some control over who's in them. So, like, just being live on Facebook is not as good for me as like being in a Facebook group or like even offer wise. I do really well with a membership because I have some space between me and the people that are in it. And I have full control over who's there. It's not the same as like going to speak on a stage. I would never go speak on a stage. Whereas like Lani, that's her jam. She lights up when she speaks on a stage. Everybody in the room signs up.
I do like speaking on the stage. And yes, that's exactly true. Like sometimes you just have to be okay with like this isn't something that I don't like. This is something I don't enjoy. It doesn't feel good. Why am I doing this? Like that's really starts. I found for me, I'm weird about my marketing. I just need something that doesn't feel like it has to be consistent as well, because I definitely am not. Or I feel like if I'm very energy based when it comes to my marketing. I also need people to interact with. So when I'm by myself, I have nothing to say. That's what I struggle with. Even though I have plenty to say, it doesn't come out, it doesn't flow. But when I'm talking to someone, I have so much more energy. And I also use human design to look at my business and myself, like what do I really thrive in? And for me, it's the interaction with people jazzes me up. And the more I'm doing it, the like, oh yeah, then I'm just on a roll and interacting with people. So for me, anything with dead space where I'm talking to a computer or by myself, it's meh, meh. That's how I feel. So the days my calendar is very, very empty, I'm like, no, no, no. I don't have anything to say. I don't know what to write. Then I
Like you
overthink
have to
it.
be, yeah,
Yeah.
you have to be connected with other people for it to flow for you. I get that. And
Yeah.
I remember this one time, I think it was a couple years ago, Lonnie and I were talking, and I'm all about systems and like connecting dots and creating new ways to do things. And so I was like, it was back when Descript had first come out and whatever the repurposed IO. And I was like, I'm gonna record these podcast episodes and I'm gonna record the video of them and put that on YouTube. And I'm gonna take all these short form videos and be everywhere. And she was like, are you sure? Because you've made all your money in your business from showing up for other people's audiences. So you didn't have to be consistent. You could rest
Hmm.
and serving them. One thing, so just to give you guys a little background on my human design, I'm what's called a projector, and we are here to help guide the other types, which makes me a great coach. But you have to be invited. Otherwise, everyone thinks you're a know it all. I don't like it. So, like being invited to other people's audiences and then sharing my insights is how I get the most sales. It's what's natural for me. And like trying to go outside that, do things that seem like I'm like, it makes sense on paper. I should be everywhere. But actually, that's not sustainable for me. And I don't even like it. And Lonnie was like, why are you doing that?
Exactly, exactly. And it's one of those things that it's easy to see in someone else, but not always easy to see in yourself. And you get excited because you're like, oh, that's working for you. And oh, you're having so much fun doing it. I could have fun doing it and it would work for me. And I could do it. But the question is not whether or not you could do it, but can you sustain it in the energy that you need to be able to produce it? And I think that's something that sometimes with social media, especially, you kind of get this misconception of what it takes to sustain how they're showing up and what kind of energy it brings them. So you really have to look at like what works for me. For me, another thing strategy that does not work for me is launching. Being in the energy of like open and close cart, because that's a whole marketing strategy. It's a sales tactic strategy where you're like, we have this short window and we're going to do all of our marketing in a very short window and then push the pressure of the cart is closing, the bonuses are going away, got to get in now. Every single time I've done that energy of launching like that, I get sick. Like my body's just like, and we're done. So I either lose my voice or I get a cold or some sort of random thing. It's just the most bizarre thing ever. But it just doesn't align with me to have that kind of business model of launching where I'm like, oh, you have to join now or you're never going to get this again because that just doesn't feel right to me. It doesn't mean it's wrong if you're doing it that way. And that is a great strategy. I do kind of wish I could do it sometimes. But for me, what feels better and what is more aligned is to have an evergreen program where you can join at any time into Empowered for More. As long as I have the capacity to take on more people and be able to support them, you can join tomorrow. You can join next month. You can join the month after that. I have no plans on closing the program. Could the price go up? Sure, there is that possibility, and it has gone up because we've added more value. But I don't want to be like, you have to join now or you're never going to get in because that doesn't feel good to me. No, I don't. That also leaves the door open for me to sometimes feel like, man, I just gave them an out because they can join next month and they can give themselves an excuse. But also, my program is designed for people who are ready to take action. So if they want to talk themselves out of the action that quickly, they're not ready for the program. They're not going to get the best results.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say is I love how you have designed your business where like when people feel most aligned, that's when they're going to hop in.
Yeah.
But for me, I love a pressure launch.
Hmm.
Um I love a sales page that like so beautifully conveys everything I do inside my program that I never actually have to talk to a person to sell it, which is how I sold my membership. It's how I sold the mastermind that they could upgrade into because I can't sustain like I have a pop of energy. So those pressure launches are great for me. I can go all in on them. But if I had to do that evergreen, I would die. I could never ever sustain that. I would be like a wreck. So for me, either a pressure launch like that or even an evergreen, you're talking about evergreen, and evergreen can be different things. Like
Yeah,
Lonnie's
I can mean a
evergreen,
lot.
yeah, is open forever, anytime, which is it's good. It's perfect for her. But for me, my evergreen funnel looks like I would quickly find new people. And this is really honestly only works for low ticket offers, just if you're new to online marketing, guys finding new people, getting them in my funnel quickly, and then putting them on their own like 3 day launch where they get the sequence of emails and they got the special offer only for 3 days. That was what worked very, very best for me. And then if I had something higher ticket, I would nurture them through Instagram stories. I don't do discovery calls. I would do them in my service business, but when it came to coaching, I did not have the energy to run my business and do discovery calls. So for me, I had to like so thoroughly, it was a longer nurture process for sure, like way longer. I had to make sure they so thoroughly like liked me already, understood me and the offer thoroughly before I had them apply. And so they're totally different business models, but Lonnie and I have both seen a ton of success with the one that was aligned for us.
Yeah, exactly. And it cracks me up because you were saying sales pages, you love sales pages. I hated sales pages. In fact, I my sales page up until a few months ago was a Google Doc with some bullet points, and that's if somebody even wanted it. That's how I told them about the program as a recap. But I built my multi six figure coaching business and coaching program from no sales page, just conversations, and that is super aligned for me. And the sales pages I don't feel great about. So I have to work on like what does my energy need to be? And so I feel good about my sales pages. So that's something I have to hire out because for me to put that together, it literally sucks the life out of me. So we have so many different types of strategies here, types of marketing. We've talked about sales calls and sales pages, social media, email lists, and all of those different things that we can do. We're not really talking diving into each individual strategy, but more of like, what do you do? How do you know what works for you? Like, how do I even choose? How do I dive in and say, okay, this one works for me, this one doesn't work for me? How do figure that out? That's the next question. Say, okay, I get it. I don't have to do it all, but what do I choose to do?
Yeah, I think the first thing to do is look at like where you feel blocked around marketing. Now, here's a caveat. If you're a person who's like, I hate sales, I can't talk about my offer, you have a different problem. You've got
Yeah.
to get to where like you're comfortable with talking about your offer, you love sales. That's an entirely different episode we can record. But if you know what you need to do to market and you have a plan and there's one piece that you're like, man, I just can't get that done. Like I just can't seem to build the sales page. I just can't seem to record my podcast episode. Like if I have to get on TikTok again today, I'm going to throw my phone out the window. Like what is that thing that just feels so misaligned and blocked for you? Like it's okay to drop it and find another way to do what that thing does.
So good. That's exactly what I would tell you to do. And I would add another caveat here. By choosing not to do one strategy, you do have to choose to do another. Okay. So it can't be like, I hate them all. I'm not going to do them all. And people are just going to come to me because I choose to be aligned with doing nothing. That's not how this works. You do have to do one of them at least. That cracks me up. Sometimes I see people get this permission to find what is aligned for them. And then they're like, well, none of it is aligned. I'm not going to do any of it. I'm not going to be on social media. I'm not going to have a community. I'm not going to do this. I'm not going to do that. And I'm like, well, what are you going to do to make sales? Because sounds to
Yeah.
me like you just don't want to do anything. So can't,
Yeah, like,
can't go
wait, I
that
think you're
extreme.
saying, yeah, I think you're saying you don't want to have a business because you do have to market somehow.
Yes, you do have to choose something and you do have to show up and do it. And I think another thing to add into this is it does take time. That none of these are fast conversions that will work sustainably forever. You have to put systems into place. You do have to test things. You do have to build up momentum. You have to find the right audience. You have to test A and B funnels and do a split test, those kinds of things. Kate was one of the first ones that was talking about like do A/B testing. And I learned that from you when you were putting in some of those printables in More Club. I was like, oh yeah, that would make sense. This is how I could figure out which funnel works the best, is to try my audience. This audience is going to go through this funnel versus this audience is going to go through this one. Which one has the better response? So you do have to test and learn. But if you are just energetically drained by certain ways you're doing the thing, that's when I recommend take a step back and resetting the energy, resetting the intention. Don't throw out the whole thing. Like, don't just cancel your email, like, delete all of the emails on your email list because you just got frustrated with your email funnel. Like, nobody's buying. Don't do that. I always get worried when we're on these podcast episodes. I'm like, no, don't take one little phrase that I'm saying and go to the extreme. What I want you to think about is, okay, how can I realign this activity? So, like the launch mode, I like doing webinars, but I don't like the pressure of open and close cards. So now I have a strategy that is just, I just do fun, casual workshops where I'm not putting a ton of effort into them as far as like heavy, heavy marketing, tons of bonuses, lots of extra energy around the materials put into that workshop. I just show up and do the workshop. And I make sure it's something I really like talking about. I can really have value to give to my people. So then when they come, if we have 10 people on the call and two people say, yes, I'm ready to take action and I want what you're offering, I want in, I could say yes immediately and I'm going to do it again in 2 weeks. And it's not a big deal. I'm not stressed about it. So I still do a similar type of like idea of webinar, workshop, etc., live, but it's not with the same type of energy and pressure that Kate would do with like her live launching segments and things like that.
Yeah. So like look at what you do like to do and what you don't like to do.
Hmm.
How can we make this work to get conversions for you?
Exactly. So I tell people all the time, like you do have to have a presence online some way, some way. You that is a pretty much required thing for you to be able to be in business, whether it's a website, it's an email list, it's even a placeholder on Instagram with a quick little 9 grid, 12 grid photos or videos that you can have just holding a space for you. It could be a simple website on Canva. Something that is holding space for you, you have to start there and then lean into each individual one. But you don't have to be on TikTok and doing reels. You don't have to be on YouTube doing long form videos. You don't have to write your email list 3 times a week. I have a coach that writes their email list every day. I don't want to do that. That doesn't align for me. But that doesn't mean that it's not a great idea and a good strategy because they're making a lot of money off of that strategy. It works for them. What works for me?
Yeah. And I think it's important to touch on like, especially if, like I said, you're new to marketing online, there's really like three things you have to have in your marketing strategy. You have to have a way for people to find you.
Mhm.
You have to have a way to nurture them, like to make them understand what you do, how it helps people, that kind of thing. And then you have to have a way to sell to them. And those are three different things you do usually. So sometimes what I see is people are like, okay, I started my podcast and it's only nurture and they're not pitching and they're not getting new people to it. And they're like, oh, it's not working, but it is working. It's working for one thing. What are you doing for the other two pieces?
So you just hit that so perfectly. So good. And it's what I describe as connection marketing. It's the 3 pieces, the connections. How are you getting into new people's worlds? How are new people finding you? You got to be getting into more spaces, more rooms, more circles. How am I getting into those more connections every single week? Whether that's a networking group locally or a Facebook group online or something with SEO where people are Google searching you and finding you. All of those are connections. And then what you said about the conversations, that's your nurture section where you are talking to your audience, they're getting to know you. It could be like a podcast where it's a little one-sided, but they're hearing you, you're in their earbuds. It could be in the DMs, it could be a conversation through email, it could be something where they're getting to know more about you and you're also showing them your authority. And then that last piece, the conversion is how do I how do I tell them what I offer? Because you're so nailed it on the head. A lot of people are doing one, maybe even 2 pieces of this, and they get capped out because there's not always something in that flow, in that funnel of those 3 pieces. So the conversion, like they never get to the point where they're like, this is my offer. Are you ready to buy? Empowered for More is open for those of you who want to take action and figure out what you want to do for your marketing plan. This is my plug saying, yes, we can take your payment. We also want you to come get success. That, like, more than taking the money, is like, we're ready for you to come in and take action with us. There is no need for you to wait. However, if I'm not getting new people to listen to this episode, we're going to cap out on how many people buy. So we have to have all 3 pieces going, not just the middle part of the conversation, not just new leads where we're just like, great, they're following me, they're going to buy from me. No, they won't. That's not how it works anymore. That was 1990 or 2020. Like that was really what it was. So it's different now, and our people are craving all 3 pieces from us. So give it to them, and you can do it in a aligned way because when you're in the good energetic alignment, you're going to show up and do it. Number one, it's easier to take the action and keep it sustainable, but also people feel that, and you don't come show up with bitterness because I do see a lot of people marketing with bitterness.
Yes, and that doesn't work because people don't want
They
all
don't
that
want an angry
negative
person,
stuff.
right? It's your marketing picks up on your energy, guys. I'm just telling you, it does. It really does.
Yeah, and when you show up, all the like, okay, disrupting is great, but disrupting just to disrupt, saying things that are negative or that bring other people down because they get the interaction does not mean you're going to make a sale because overall most people don't want to work with someone who has those like negative vibes. And
Mhm.
if they do, they're going to bring you more negative vibes. Like it's
Yes.
not a cycle you want to get into.
No, not at all. So this is our challenge today with this conversation, and why we wanted to have this episode is because I wanted to one remind you you don't have to be all everywhere and do all of the things. It'd be better for you to choose one or two very targeted ways to show up and market your business and do all three of those pieces of the marketing: connections, conversations, and conversions. Where are you showing up and doing that? Nail two in and then expand to a third one, then expand to the next one. That's really important when you're in a mode of growth, because one, it's really hard to sustain more than two when you're a solopreneur. Once you go past two different marketing strategies, it starts to get to be a lot as you're serving the people with who are converting. So you're going to need to hire out a virtual assistant or maybe an OBM, somebody to help you with onboarding process, things like that, so that you can continue to scale and increase what you're doing to more avenues, more marketing techniques, etc., or going more in on just those few marketing activities. You're going to need more support. So just start with two. Would you agree with that, Kate?
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to take a second to plug Empowered for More, if you don't mind, because
I never
inside
mind.
yeah, inside of Empowered for More, what we do is we customize your strategy. And you got Lonnie and I both for coaches as well as guest coaches. We bring so much perspective, so many different ways to do things. We never try to fit you inside of a box and say, here, you have to do things our way.
Yes. And that's what makes this program different than a lot of programs, because you come in and you're like, learn this method, learn this style. You must like use our things. And I've been in those programs where it's just like, that doesn't work for me. So if you have been in other programs, you're like, well, I've tried other things and they didn't really work. And I spent money on them and I just like don't understand. It could be because you were not aligning and designing your marketing to work for you. So that's one of our commitments in Empowered for More, is to walk beside you and say, okay, how do we make this work for you, your energy, how you want to show up, whether it's your physical energy, your mental energy, all of those pieces together, and then support you putting it into action so that you are doing all three steps. You're getting those new leads every week, you're nurturing them, you're having conversations, and you're leading them to sales too.
Absolutely. And it truly is a community with guidance. One thing about a lot of group programs is they end
Mhm.
up being like a glorified course where
Yeah.
it's like, here's your course, and then you can come ask me questions once a week or once a month, which is not the kind of support a lot of people need to make the strides they want to make in business.
Yeah. Well, what I always said is like, I just need somebody to come and see me and see how it will work for me and then support me as I figure it out. And I think majority of us as women, you can need that in our lives. We need somebody who will just come in like, I see you, I see what you want, I got it. Okay, let's figure out how to make this work for you. And then let's walk the journey together. So if you haven't done that for yourself or you don't know how to do it for yourself, that's what we've designed this program to be, so that you don't have to stay stuck or you don't have to be like, I can't figure it out or have to try all the things. Let's do it together and speed up the journey. Like the whole goal is to accelerate you to success by saying no to the things that aren't aligned and going all in on the things that are.
Absolutely.
So if you've been struggling with marketing, or you're like, I feel like I'm going to die because I'm doing all the things, or I just did this launch, or I just tried to do a YouTube channel and failed miserably, maybe this is the moment when you need to give yourself permission to say, am I choosing what is aligned for me, or am I feeling the pressure to do what works for everybody else? And I'm copying what their energy is, and that really isn't aligned to me. Like Kate and I, we both respect each other a lot, but we have several times been excited by the other person's energy and tried to copy them because we're like, oh man, that could work for me too. But ultimately, it's a distraction rather than a positive and growth action for us. So we always are double checking and learn to be a good friend to each other and say, I'm calling you out. So if you need somebody to help call you out, give them the permission to do that. Let us help you with that, but also call yourself out and say, where have I even been showing up in marketing at all? Have I been hiding under a rock or just focusing in on one nurture piece and wondering why no one's buying from me? So go out and do the marketing, actually form an aligned marketing plan, and then take the action to do it. And let us know what you decide to choose. We'll see you next week on another episode. Thank you again for joining us. We'll see you guys soon. Thanks for actually joining us today. I hope it inspired you to actually take the action to step into the empowered CEO that you are and getting more of the results that you want. Before you go, I have a quick favor. Leave us a review and take a screenshot of this episode and share it with your friends and on your favorite social media channels. Don't forget to tag us, actually.thepodcast and Lani J. Jackson. And we'll see you next week on another episode.